Rhino had one number one, correct, in the history of the label?
Yes, it was a fluke. We didn't really try for hits because, we really weren't equipped to do that. By the way, as much as we did so many great things for record fans everywhere and also for, the industry, if you think about because of Rhino's success, the other labels formed their own boutique reissue labels, which meant that record fans everywhere additionally benefited from. So we did all these great things, but in my opinion, because we didn't really have hits except for that one fluke, that we weren't, we weren't really respected. People really didn't take us seriously, as much as, we were really very profitable and we were like a great company and we treated our employees really well. So having said that, so Billy Vera played around locally. By the way, he'd also had some acting background, like in a soap opera, and that's successful. He'd been a songwriter. I think he was on staff to Atlantic Records. He had a hit with Judy Clay. So he was kind of around, years ago. But in the early, well, I guess 70s into the 80s, he had a band who was popular playing clubs around town. And there was a label out of Japan called Alpha Records that recorded two albums with him. Alpha was an attempt to, have a successful stateside label, but it didn't really work. So they folded pretty quickly. So Billy came to Richard, my partner, and said, you should really think about reissuing this record. I think enough people, ask me for it. You'll sell enough, you could at least break even. So that was the initial exchange. So we put it out. It was selling a bit, but really what happened was again a fluke. The Michael J. Fox TV show Family Ties, they ran it on an episode where it was kind of like it was called like the love. Go ahead.
How did they come across this song? Who was it?
Well, I think probably I'm guessing the music supervisor or one of the producers probably was a fan of Billy's from seeing him play, right?
Okay.
Um, so it was like the love theme, and then it was in the subsequent show the next week. So the network was getting calls from everybody, and we had the record out. So really, the demand was caused by the exposure from the TV show. Where I came into play was I made all the international deals, and I was at there was an industry kind of convention the end of January called Midem in the south of France, and I was there with a number one record in the States. I made a deal with a label in England. It was called Fanfare, but I made the A&R guy was Simon Cowell, who much later became a big hit on a few different TV shows.
American Idol, and yeah.
Right, but like wasn't
Got
it like
Talent
X
and all that
Factor,
stuff.
maybe like another one. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, so that was obviously a few years before that.